If you're a product leader, you know the feeling. You're constantly staring down uncertainty. Should we pivot the roadmap? Kill that feature people love but isn't working? Bet the farm on some risky new tech? But what happens when all that uncertainty turns into fear, and you and your whole team just freeze? Well, today we're going to break down a really powerful framework for turning that exact fear into decisive action. Let's get into it.
So let me start with a question that kind of flips the whole idea of courage on its head. We tend to think of it as this fixed trait, right? You either have it or you don't. But what if that's totally wrong? What if courage is actually a skill, something you can choose to do in any given moment?
This quote just nails it. The goal isn't to be fearless. I mean, come on, that's a myth. The real definition of courage, the one that's actually useful for us, is feeling that pit in your stomach and doing the thing anyway. It's not about the absence of fear, it's about taking action in spite of it.
So how does this actually play out day to day? Well, every single time you feel that fear, you're basically standing at a fork in the road. And your choice in that split second to act or to hesitate is what kicks off one of two incredibly powerful self-reinforcing cycles.
And here they are, the two paths. On the left, you've got that nasty downward spiral of fear, and it's fueled entirely by inaction. But on the right, you've got this awesome upward courage spiral fueled by, you guessed it, action. But here's the kicker. Notice how they both start from the exact same place? A moment of fear. The only thing that changes your path is what you do next.
Let's walk down that vicious cycle path for a second, because we've all been there. A challenge pops up. Maybe you need to tell your CEO their pet project isn't working. Oof, the fear hits. You decide to wait, let me just get one more data point, or I'll just socialize the idea of it more. In that empty space, your brain starts inventing all these worst-case scenarios. The fear gets bigger and bigger. And then you justify to yourself, the timing just isn't right. And that story just cements the fear, making it even harder to act the next time.
But what if you took the other path? Same fear, same sweaty palms, but instead of freezing, you take one tiny committed action. You don't try to have the big, scary conversation with the CEO. Nope, you just draft a one-pager with a user insight. You don't try to build the whole new feature. You just sketch a quick wireframe. The second you act, you get feedback from the real world. And almost every time, you realize the monster in your head was way scarier than reality. And that small win, it shrinks the fear, builds your confidence, and gives you the juice for the next step.
And this all boils down to the core of this whole framework, a simple but really profound little formula. Courage equals action divided by fear. Now think about that. You can't really control the fear you feel. That's the denominator. It just shows up. But you always, 100% of the time, have control over the numerator, your action. You can literally act your way into feeling brave.
Okay, theory is great, but let's get practical. How do we actually apply this? As a product leader, how can you use this equation for yourself and, just as importantly, to build a more courageous team?
So for you personally, it starts with 3 really simple tactics. First, when you feel that fear creeping in, just label it. Don't judge it. Just say, okay, this is fear. It gives you a little distance. Second, shrink the action. Don't think, I have to launch this product. Think, I have to write the first sentence of the product spec. What's the smallest possible step? And third, use the 5-second rule. The second you feel that instinct to act, count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and physically move. It's a simple brain hack that stops hesitation in its tracks.
Now for your team. This is so important. Your job as a leader is to basically build a playground for the courage spiral. First, you've got to create psychological safety. Make it clear that intelligent failures are just the cost of doing business when you're innovating. Second, model it yourself. Talk about your own fears and how you're pushing through them. That gives your team permission to be human, too. And finally, and this is huge, reward the act of taking a smart risk, not just the successful outcome. When you praise the courage itself, you'll get more of it. Simple as that.
So, does this really work out there in the real world? Oh yeah. And there is no better example than the origin story of a company I'm pretty sure we all know.
I mean, this timeline is the whole framework in a nutshell. Look at 2008. The Airbnb guys were totally broke, completely stuck in a fear spiral. Their idea was going nowhere. But then, look at that next step. They took one small, courageous action. They didn't try to build a global hospitality empire. They just emailed a few people coming to a local conference. And what happened? 3 bookings. That tiny little bit of real-world feedback was enough to break the paralysis and kick off that virtuous cycle that eventually became the Airbnb we know today.
Amazing.
So that story is all the proof you need that this model works. The only question left is, how are you going to use it? How can you put this equation to work right now, today?
No, seriously. Think about it for a second. What's one thing you're putting off because it feels scary? A tough conversation? A bold product call? Now, what is the absolute smallest, tiniest version of that action you could take? Can you just open a new email draft? Send a one-sentence Slack message? What can you do in the next 5 seconds to kickstart your own courage spiral?
I want to leave you with this thought from Stephen Pressfield. The amateur believes he must first overcome his fear, then he can do his work. The professional knows that fear can never be overcome. The amateur waits to feel brave, but the professional leader? They know fear is just part of the job description. It's a sign you're pushing the envelope. The goal isn't to get rid of fear, it's to be a professional, to do the work, especially when it's scary, because action is the only antidote.